Michael Jackson's was the undisputed king of pop, a master of reinvention who built an empire with albums like Thriller. But the very media machine that helped construct his kingdom would also relentlessly fuel the controversies that led to his tragic downfall. This is the story of how the world's biggest star flew to unprecedented heights and then fell from grace in the most public way you can imagine. Section 1. The Making of a Phenomenon. The world first met Michael Jackson as the impossibly talented, pint-sized frontman of the Jackson 5. Alongside his brothers, he exploded onto the charts with 4 #1 hits in a row, making them household names overnight. Even then, as an 11-year-old, there was something magnetic about him, a mix of a child's energy and a professionalism well beyond his years. But that was just the beginning. As the 1970s wound down, Jackson was determined to build his own identity. His 1979 solo album, Off the Wall, was his declaration of independence. Working with the legendary producer Quincy Jones, he created a sophisticated blend of disco, funk, and soul. It was a total reinvention, a deliberate move to create a new persona, far from the kid with the giant afro. The album was a huge success, but for Jackson, it wasn't enough. When Off the Wall was mostly ignored at the Grammys, that perceived snub lit a fire in him to create something so undeniable, so powerful, that the world would have no choice but to acknowledge his genius. Section 2. The King of Pop, Thriller, and Global Dominance. What came next wasn't just an album, it was a cultural earthquake. Released in 1982, Thriller shattered every record in its path. It became, and still is, the best-selling album of all time, a masterpiece that blended pop, rock, and R&B into something totally new. Every single song felt like a hit, and 7 of its 9 tracks landed in the top 10. But Thriller didn't just conquer the radio, it conquered television too. Before Michael Jackson, music videos were mostly low-budget promotional clips. He turned them into cinematic events. The video for Billie Jean was a moody, noir-inspired fantasy, and its constant rotation on MTV is credited with breaking the channel's color barrier, opening the door for other black artists. Then came Beat It, a rock anthem with a video showing a stylized gang fight. But the real game-changer was the 14-minute short film for Thriller. Directed by John Landis, it was an epic tribute to horror movies with stunning special effects and choreography that people are still trying to copy today. The world was watching an icon being born. His performance at the Motown 25 TV special in 1983 was a defining moment. For 5 minutes, he owned the stage alone, and in a flash of brilliance, he unveiled the Moonwalk to a stunned global audience. That one move sealed his status as a dance innovator, making styles popular that would go on to influence generations of performers. In the press, he wasn't just a pop star anymore, he was now the king of pop. Section 3. The Price of Fame. But as his fame skyrocketed, so did the challenges and the constant glare of the public eye. The 1980s saw Jackson become a global brand, but also a target of intense curiosity and speculation. His changing appearance became non-stop tabloid fodder, with wild rumors about his plastic surgery and skin tone. In 1993, he publicly revealed he had the skin disorder vitiligo, which causes the loss of skin pigment. But the Wacko Jacko narrative had already taken hold, a caricature the media found too profitable to let go. The incredible pressure of being the world's biggest star started to take its toll. His public appearances became rarer and more eccentric. In 1988, he purchased a 2,700-acre property for about $19.5 million and transformed it into his fantastical Neverland Ranch. where he would live for more than 15 years. Complete with an amusement park and zoo, it was built as a sanctuary to reclaim a childhood he never got to have. But this sanctuary would later become the setting for the most destructive chapters of his life. The same media that once celebrated his every move now seemed determined to dissect his every quirk, blurring the line between Jackson the artist and Jackson the eccentric. Section 4. The allegations that changed everything. This all led to a series of events that would change his life forever. In 1993, the world was stunned when the first allegations of child sexual abuse were made against him. The case, brought by the family of a 13-year-old boy, sent shockwaves through his global fan base. The story dominated headlines for months, turning his private life into a public circus. Jackson fiercely denied the allegations, but on the advice of his legal team, who feared a long, drawn-out public trial, he settled the civil case out of court. No criminal charges were ever filed because of a lack of evidence, but the damage was done. The settlement wasn't seen as a legal strategy by many, but as an admission of guilt. For much of the public, the perfect image of the king of pop was shattered. His career, once an unstoppable force, was now permanently clouded by suspicion. The Wacko Jacko caricature was no longer just about odd behavior. It was now tied to something much darker. The media narrative had shifted for good, and it was a shadow that would follow him for the rest of his life. Section 5. The Trial of the Century. A decade later, that shadow returned with a vengeance. After a 2003 TV documentary showed Jackson holding hands with a young boy and defending his practice of sharing his bed with children, new allegations emerged. This time, there would be no settlement. Jackson was indicted on multiple felony charges, including child molestation and conspiracy. The trial in 2005 turned into a global media circus. For 5 months, the world watched as the prosecution painted Jackson as a predator who used his fame and Neverland Ranch to lure kids. His defense team fired back, arguing it was a clear case of extortion and portraying the accusers as opportunists looking for a payday. High-profile friends like Macaulay Culkin testified in his defense, saying that they had slept in Jackson's bed but were never abused. On June 13, 2005, Michael Jackson was acquitted on all counts. As fans cheered outside the courthouse, it felt like a complete vindication. But in the court of public opinion, the verdict was much murkier. The trial, despite the acquittal, had done deep and permanent damage to his reputation and his health. He became a recluse, abandoning Neverland Ranch forever and disappearing from the public eye. The king of pop had won in court, but he'd lost so much more. Section 6. The Final Years and Tragic End. The years after the trial were quiet ones for Jackson. He lived overseas for a while, in a self-imposed exile from the country that had both worshipped and condemned him. His creative work slowed down, and his finances were shaky. But by 2009, he was plotting the ultimate comeback. A massive series of 50 concerts called This Is It was scheduled to take place in London. It was meant to be his grand finale, a chance to reclaim his legacy and remind the world of the musical genius that had been buried under years of controversy. Rehearsal footage showed a man who, at 50, was still a master of his craft, carefully putting together a show that was set to revolutionize live entertainment all over again. The world was ready for his return. But that return never happened. On June 25, 2009, just weeks before the tour was supposed to kick off, Michael Jackson died from an overdose of a powerful anesthetic given to him by his personal doctor. His death was ruled a homicide. The news of his sudden passing sent a tidal wave of grief across the entire globe. The king of pop was gone. Michael Jackson's life was a complicated mix of incredible genius and profound tragedy. What are your most powerful memories of the King of Pop? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more untold stories of the world's greatest icons. In the aftermath of his death, something remarkable happened. The constant media scrutiny and the wacko-jacko caricature that had defined his later years started to fade. Instead, the world began to remember the music, the dance, and the electric performances. His album sales soared, and a new generation discovered the artist who changed pop culture forever. His legacy, however, remains a topic of intense debate. Projects like the hit Broadway show MJ the Musical and a new biopic are still trying to tell his story. These projects often have to walk a fine line, celebrating his artistic genius while dealing with the dark and unresolved allegations that still hang over his name. Michael Jackson's story isn't a simple one of rise and fall. It's the story of a boy who became a king, a man who became a myth, and an artist whose influence is still undeniable. His life is a stark reminder of the crushing pressures of superstardom and the powerful, often destructive, relationship between a celebrity and the media. He was and remains a one-of-a-kind figure in our cultural history. Forever the King of Pop.